And now, please welcome our on-stage host for today's event, defense attorney and CNN and Headline News legal analyst, Joey Jackson.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. That's a pleasant good afternoon to everyone. Much better, much better. I just want to thank Mary Ernstner for that very talented and wonderful performance. And of course, she's one of the many talented performers who are currently appearing on Broadway in the production of War Paint, and we'll hear more from her later. Now, we welcome you to the American Bar Association's event, It's Only Fair, a concert and rally which is in support of the Legal Services Corporation and the very important work that they do every day, and twice on Sunday. Now, for the next 90 minutes or so, we will hear stories from the men and women from the front lines of the legal aid agencies partially funded by the Legal Services Corporation, as well as from some of the clients who have benefited from their counsel and support. These are interesting times, to say the least, making the work and stories we will hear about tonight even more compelling. In addition to these important words, tonight we will hear music from some of Broadway's shining talent, can't wait for that, who have joined forces with us for this very important event. Now, please help me welcome to the stage our musical director. You may have heard accompanying shows including Wicked, right? And On the Town. He has done a remarkable job of putting the music together for today's events, and he will accompany all of our performers this afternoon. Please welcome Brett Rowe. Brett, are you ready? Brett, are you ready? Okay, and then let us now begin. So our originally scheduled first performer was called away to his real job. He was performing as Alexander Hamilton in Hamilton. You might have heard of that, right? But he sent a good friend who created the role of Stevie Wonder. No, you heard of him. In Motown the Musical, please welcome right now, Ryan Shaw. Another round of applause, please. Thank you, Ryan, very much. What a perfect way to set the tone for this afternoon. Now it's my privilege to introduce our first speaker of the, I wouldn't say it's evening, right? It's sort of like late afternoon, early evening, and that would be the president of the American Bar Association, Miss Linda Klein. Welcome.
That is a tough act to follow. Thank you, Joey. Thank you to our speakers and entertainers who are rallying us for equal justice. We are all here in the spirit of Marian Anderson, who sang In the Name of Liberty on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in 1939 and at the March on Washington in 1963. We're so very fortunate to have all of you with us to take time to appreciate and to speak out for the Legal Services Corporation and its essential role in our justice system and free society rooted in the rule of law. When I attended PS 114 east of here in Queens, every morning we pledged allegiance to the flag and affirmed that our country stood for liberty and justice for all. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it made the United States of America very special. And at Beach Channel High School, also in Queens, I studied the Constitution. And right there at the beginning, I read that our more perfect union would establish justice. I was privileged to live in the best country. But at Washington and Lee Law School, I learned that justice for all, unfortunately, was just a dream for many Americans. Every year, millions of Americans are deprived of our nation's promise. As many as 86% of civil legal problems of low-income Americans receive inadequate or no legal help. And the number of people so poor that they are eligible for legal aid is at record levels, 60 million Americans. This is a travesty. This is no time to eliminate or even cut funding for the Legal Services Corporation. Indeed, there's never a time. And as citizens committed to equal justice under law, we rally behind this cause and insist that our elected officials support and fully fund legal services. Lawyers in the trenches know that legal help can give hope to survivors of domestic violence, to families under financial stress, to folks hit by natural disasters, to military veterans fighting for themselves in a legal system that's often complicated and confusing. The vast majority of that legal help comes through the Legal Services Corporation and the legal aid agencies it funds. Without LSC, courthouse doors all over this country would slam in the face of millions of Americans, and our communities cannot bear that. The case for funding legal services is crystal clear. The Legal Services Corporation guarantees the basic dignity and rights of every American with minimal resources. Without the services that LSC and its grantees provide, America would be a much poorer place, and the cause of equal access to justice would be much weaker. The ABA was there for the birth of the Legal Services Corporation, and then again in the 1980s and 1990s when policymakers threatened to eliminate funding, the ABA joined with other advocates, and we all rose up and we stopped that. And we're continuing to advocate for legal services now, and we're better armed with information and experience, and we're stronger than ever. Our grassroots campaign at defendlegalaid.org has garnered well over 20,000 supporters with their sentiments delivered to their members of Congress, demonstrating the priority our communities have for equal access to justice. And it's not too late to add your name and your voice at defendlegalaid.org. Don't forget that. Legal aid is our cause. It is our time. We must continue to speak out. It's only fair. We will never stop advocating for equal justice. We must ensure that the United States of America lives up to the promise that all school children learn, that establishing justice is the bedrock of our more perfect union. Thank you.
Linda, thank you so very much for that powerful message and for the fine work that you do every day for the betterment of the ABA. Now, adding her voice to today's chorus is another of the talented performers who have rallied today and for this cause. She is currently appearing in the Broadway hit Hedwig and the Angry Inch, singing the song Wicked Little Town. From that production, Miss Shannon Connolly. Shannon? How can you possibly have a voice that good? Unbelievable. That's talent. And so now, what I'd like to do is, and it gives me great pleasure to do so, to introduce the president of the Legal Services Corporation. Please give your kind attention to Mr. Jim Sandman. Jim?
Thank you. Good afternoon. This morning, all across America, 9,287 people went to work at a legal aid organization funded by the Legal Services Corporation. They're working at 133 independent legal aid programs with 820 offices, serving every county in every state, the District of Columbia, and the territories. No matter where you are in the United States today, there's an LSC-funded legal aid program providing assistance to people who can't afford to pay for it. What are they doing today? Well, they're getting protection orders for victims of abuse. They're saving homes for tenants and homeowners who face wrongful evictions and foreclosures. They're securing benefits for veterans who earned them through their military service. They're saving seniors from consumer scams. They're doing the work of the angels. They work under difficult circumstances. They carry crushing caseloads. They labor with the emotional burden of their clients' circumstances and with the heartbreak of knowing how many people they can't help. And they worry about funding for their organizations. These people are upholding the highest values not only of the legal profession, but of America itself. They are making America's solemn pledge of justice for all real for people to whom it would otherwise just be a cruel illusion. They give people faith that equal justice under law is, as Justice Powell put it, not merely a caption on the facade of the Supreme Court building, but a right. They give people hope that our nation's foundational commitment to justice, what James Madison called the end of government, what Thomas Jefferson called the most sacred of the duties of government, that justice is alive and true. Thank you for what you do and what you're doing by your presence here today to enable and support these American heroes and patriots in their mission of faith and hope. And I thank the American Bar Association, without which the Legal Services Corporation would not exist. The American Bar Association was critical to the founding of LSC in 1974 and has been there in the decades since, anytime we've faced a threat. And I'd like to offer special thanks to my friend and hero, Linda Klein, who has been passionate and strategic and ferocious and effective in her advocacy. Our profession and our nation are grateful for your service. Thank you all very much.
I second the motion as to Ms. Klein, and I third the motion as to you, Mr. Salmon. Great work. I am now delighted to introduce our next set of performers. They are both currently appearing in a dazzling Broadway production of War Paint with the legends Patti LuPone and Christine Ebersol. Now please welcome back Mary Ernstner, who opened today's rally with our national anthem. She will be followed by her fellow cast member from the show, David Jerome. Wow. Once again, from the production of War Paint, thank you, David Jerome and Mary Ernstner. And I'm relishing being on this stage because I know it's the closest I'll ever be to a Broadway stage. So you guys are fabulous. And now please join me in welcoming Legal Services of New York City Director, Ron Rasmussen.
So in lieu of the performer from Hamilton, I thought I would start with a little, oh no, sorry. Not gonna sing, don't worry. But I am gonna start by quoting Alexander Hamilton, who said, and you might not hear this in the musical, but the first duty of society is justice. And I'm so happy to be here to celebrate our partnership in seeking that first duty. Justice for all Americans. Legal Services NYC is the largest provider of civil legal services in the country, with a staff of 500 working in all the boroughs of the city. We provide services to approximately 100,000 low-income New Yorkers every year. Our advocates help our clients get and keep the essentials of life: shelter, safety from domestic violence, access to high-quality education and healthcare, and stable incomes for veterans, seniors, and those with disabilities. This past year, our advocates prevented more than 3,500 evictions and foreclosures, helped more than 2,000 survivors of domestic violence, and achieved over $100 million in taxpayer savings by preventing homelessness and averting foster care and other costs. Low-income New Yorkers have it tough. In one of the richest American cities, more than 1.7 million have incomes under the federal poverty level, a mere $24,600 for a family of 4. Try to imagine surviving on that in New York City. Paying the rent in New York City is hard. Buying food is hard. Affording transportation and clothing and books for your kids is hard. Matt Desmond, the Harvard sociologist who wrote Evicted, a devastating account of the national homelessness problem, stated, "Without shelter, everything else falls apart." And that is certainly true. But it's also true that without safety from domestic violence, everything falls apart. Without a sufficient, stable income, everything else falls apart. Without a high-quality education and access to health care, everything else falls apart. Our advocates help our clients hold their lives together in all these ways that are so critical. And when the stakes get higher, as they have recently become in this country, we fight even harder for our clients and their families and for the fairness and justice that are core values of our entire country. I'm now very pleased to introduce you to a client of ours, Mr. Abdel Joseph, who will tell you how Legal Services NYC was able to help him keep his life together so that he can build the future that we all want for ourselves. Mr. Joseph is a veteran and an impressive man. He has battled adversity in his life and in the military. After you listen to his story, think about what it would be like for you if you had to tell your new boss that you needed to take time off from your job to go to housing court again and again. What it would be like to try to defend yourself without knowing the rules of the court or the law. What it would be like if you fought in court for months by yourself, only to finally get an eviction notice from the marshal. And what it would be like to finally get the help that you need from a lawyer who could save your home. To return to the wise words of Alexander Hamilton, it will be of little avail to the people if the laws be so voluminous that they cannot be read, or so incoherent that they cannot be understood. Without our assistance, and with their lives on the line, that is what most low-income New Yorkers face every day. Thank you for coming to this event, for supporting our work, and for caring about justice, and for people like Mr. Joseph. Mr. Joseph, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Abdel Joseph, and I'm an Air Force veteran who served in Desert Storm, Desert Shield conflict. After my honorable discharge, I returned to Freeport, Long Island, where my family lived. However, I left my family home in 1995 as I was finding it difficult to adjust to life outside of the military. Although I had worked in the retail, banking, and the investment industry since leaving the military, my health issues were getting worse, and I found it hard making it through the day. Since 1997, I've been diagnosed with service-connected disabilities and began to receive disability benefits and services from the VA and started to rehabilitate myself. In 2002, I entered the VA Voc Rehab program to pursue my education and am now in process of building my own small business. Having an affordable apartment in Brooklyn has allowed me to finish my education and pursue my dreams. But for years, my landlord has been trying to drive me out of my apartment to benefit from my neighborhood's gentrification and increase his profits. My troubles with my landlord began when he gave me a weekly lease as a way to charge me more than the 12 monthly payments he was entitled to by law. When he sued me the first time for several weeks of unpaid rent, I did not have a lawyer and almost lost my home. After months of court appearances, I got a notice from the marshal that my eviction was scheduled. Fortunately, I was able to produce money order receipts, proving that I had in fact been overcharged for many months. As a result, the lawsuit was stopped. My landlord remained intent, however, on pushing me out. And over the years, he has sued me repeatedly to evict me and has harassed me to leave. Fortunately, since the first case, I found the help that I needed at Legal Services New York City. It has been a huge relief having an attorney beside me, and sometimes that's what you need most. After a hard day at work, to come home and see a court eviction notice on your door is extremely difficult. Without an attorney, my landlord would have succeeded with his most recent attempt to evict me, in which he claimed that he needed my apartment for personal use for one of his family members. Because individual owners are usually allowed to do this, at first it seemed like a lost cause. Luckily, my lawyer did some research and was able to prove that the landlord was a corporation, not a person. So we were able to defeat this fraudulent claim. I would have never been able to win this case on my own. The ability to stay in my affordable apartment has provided me relief, security, and peace of mind. It has allowed me to be able to function without having to endure the stress and fear of not having a roof over my head. No one should have to fear becoming homeless even once, much less over and over and over again. Having an apartment where I can sleep and feel safe at the end of the day has been so important throughout my rehabilitation. Thanks to Legal Services New York City for coming through for me time and time again. Thank you.
Wow, that's good stuff. Thank you, Mr. Joseph, for sharing your very personal journey with us today. Now, these are the stories, these are the people, these are the reasons why we all gather here today. Now, before we introduce our next performer, we'd like to take time out to thank the people who made today's event possible. Please help me acknowledge with your gracious applause the generous sponsors who are helping us share the message and the mission of the Legal Services Corporation. It's really worthy of applause because these great partnerships help support what goes on. Compelling stories, powerful music. We're so grateful to everyone for their contributions and participation in today's event. Now, who could have imagined that a show that debuted on Broadway 53 years ago could have people saying hello once again? Before the parade passes by, let's say hello to our next performer who is currently starring as Molly Malloy in the Broadway sensation, Hello, Dolly, the multi-Tony nominated Kate Baldwin. All right, Kate, so I officially have goosebumps now. Thank you so much, Kate, for that, from all of us. What a treat. And now, without further ado, please help me welcome Northeastern New York Legal Aid Society Director, Lillian Moy.
Hi, I am the Executive Director of the Legal Aid Society of Northeastern New York. And a little different from New York City, our territory covers 16 counties in Northeastern New York, about 30% of the square miles in this whole state. And I like to say we serve from the Catskills to Canada, just so you can picture it in your mind. We have about 400,000 low-income people living in northeastern New York, and we estimate that about 47% of them, 194,000, will experience at least one legal problem each year. Now, last year we handled about 13,000 cases, benefiting almost 27,000 low-income people. In addition to direct services, we also have a program of preventative community legal education and outreach. We know that the services we provide can change our lives, can change our clients' lives, and yet we are heartbroken to report that after our study, we found that fully 71% of the people who contacted us are not able to receive adequate or even any legal assistance. So 71% of the people who manage to contact us, we have to turn away. And that was true in spite of the fact that at the end of last year, we had a larger legal staff than ever before, almost 100 people, including 52 lawyers and 17 paralegals. We work, nevertheless, in partnership with many community agencies to help ensure that our clients have access to both the legal and social services that they need in order to succeed. And we are well aware, as you might know, that most people who have a legal problem do not even contact us. In fact, our program of outreach and education is designed to ensure that the family members, the neighbors, the faith-based, the legal and community leaders who they might contact are well aware of the services that we offer. So again, we know that our services can change our clients' lives. Legal services can bring, as we heard earlier from Mr. Joseph, can bring stability to a family facing homelessness. We can bring needed medical care and income to a client who is too disabled to work, and we can bring safety and security to a victim of domestic violence. It's now my privilege to introduce one of our clients who now serves as a member of our board of directors, Michelle Wood, to talk a little bit about her experience with the Legal Aid Society. Michelle?
Good afternoon. I feel like I need to pinch myself a little. Thank you for the honor and privilege of being invited to speak today. As Lillian said, my name is Michelle Wood, and my story is just one of many, the voiceless, the nameless, and often the forgotten. We are the poor and the abused and the discriminated. Without the endless and tireless efforts of organizations like Legal Aid Society, justice would never be our portion. My story is one I'm sure that many of you hear often: abusive marriage, abused children, and no way out. I live in an area affectionately referred to as Little Siberia, less than 10 minutes from the Canadian border. For someone like myself, a woman, a homemaker, and quote unquote, someone that's underprivileged, my options were few for justice. When I needed help escaping from an impossible situation, there was only one place someone like myself had to turn. Legal aid was there. My lawyer was there. I will always have a special place in my heart for Michaela. I must admit, at first, I wasn't sure if I would be another case in a stack of many. Quickly, I learned that I wasn't just a client to check off of their list. My lawyer took time to understand my situation and my story. I found an advocate, a fighter, and a defender in my lawyer. She did what I couldn't do myself. Her compassion will always be something that will be with me. Shakespeare famously penned, "A rose by any other name would smell as sweet." A name is powerful. I can't tell you if a rose with another name would be as sweet, but I can tell you that getting my name back, being free from the bondages of an abusive marriage, made me feel much sweeter. My name gave me back my power. Legal aid gave me back my power. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your time, your energy, and your unwavering dedication to people like us. You give someone like me, the voiceless, a voice again. Thank you.
That just serves as an incredible reminder of why we're here and the wonderful work that's being done. Just really does. Just want to thank you so much, Ms. Moy, and you, Ms. Wood, just for lifting your voice today and sharing your story with us. Now, we here at the ABA were thrilled that when we sent out a call to the Broadway theater world, so many talented performers responded, as you could see, to that call, and they said that they would love to be here and that they wanted to add their voices to this very cause. Now, you heard from his castmate, that would be Kate Baldwin, a little earlier today. It is now my pleasure to introduce the recipient of the 2017 Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in a Musical, and I'm speaking of Gavin Creel. Gavin? That was great stuff, Gavin. So I don't mean to brag, but I did shake his hand before this event. So just blocks from here, as you know, they're paying hundreds of dollars, sometimes even more, to hear the talent that we're hearing tonight on the Broadway stage. And thanks to Gavin's generosity and that of all of the other talented performers, we get to hear it today for quite a bit less than that. And now, ladies and gentlemen, representing the people at the ABA who are doing important work in support of legal services and Legal Services Corporation, please help me welcome from the ABA Standing Committee on Legal Aid and Indigent Defendants, that would be the chair, the Honorable Laura Livingston.
Thank you very much. Wow. Right? Wow. Now, when you go home and they say, well, you were in New York, did you get to see a Broadway show, and you didn't actually go down on Broadway or off Broadway to see one? Now, I think you can honestly say, I did, because you were at this rally. And so I just want to say on behalf of everybody Exclade and everybody in this room, thank you to all of the performers. Marty, thank you for putting this together and for the brilliant idea that this rally represents. So on behalf of everyone at Exclade and everyone at the ABA who works so hard in our partnership with everyone in the Access to Justice movement, and especially our partners at the Legal Services Corporation, I just want to, I think they gave this job to me to tell people what to do, because you know, like in my real life, I'm a judge and I get to like make court orders. So I think they asked me to come up and give you all a few things to put on your to-do list. The first is represented by the cards I'm holding up. These are the Legal Aid Defender cards. Some of you, many of you have, well, 20,000 of folks like you have already completed these. But I bet you know 5 or 10 or 20 other people who you might be able to recruit to fill out one of these cards. You can do that by going to www.defendlegalaid, all one word, defendlegalaid.org. You don't have to recruit lawyers to do this. Your friends, your families, your parents, your next door neighbors, the people at the gas station, the people that at the 7-Eleven you go to on your way home every Tuesday. Anybody, everybody can fill one of these out. I bet every one of those people that you encounter has a story. If they haven't volunteered as a pro bono lawyer, maybe they were a client. Maybe they have an uncle, brother's, cousin's, mama's, daddy's buddy next door who had a legal problem. Everybody knows about legal aid, and everybody should sign up to be a defender so that we can send each one of these cards to Congress so that we can tell the folks in Washington, D.C. how important it is that strong and sustainable funding for the Legal Services Corporation continue. Congress, speaking of DC, is in its usual sausage-making mode these days, trying to figure out about the budget. Sometime in the next few months, you will hear a lot of discussion about what level of funding they will appropriate for the Legal Services Corporation. I have heard that there are some in DC who want that number to be 0. Have you heard that? What do y'all think about that? No, right? We are not going to let that happen. We will work hand in hand, tirelessly, as often as we must, to do as much as possible to make sure that that number is nowhere near 0. Now, I have to be honest with you. It's not going to be anywhere near what it needs to be. It just won't. That's okay. It just needs to be more than it is now. Are we okay with that? It needs to be more than it is now. Our friends in the Senate are suggesting level funding at $385 million. Our friends in the House have a slightly different number in mind. I don't want to mention it because it's way too low. What we need from you is for you to work with us to make sure that you communicate this message, the importance of funding for legal services, to let everybody there know that 0 is unacceptable, that less than last year is unacceptable, and that what we need is a sustainable number so that the work that is being done in field programs all around this country can continue. Will you help us do that? Now, some of you folks in the ABA have connections. You have connections in your law firms. You have connections with people in Congress. I need you to use those connections. If you have a relationship with someone in Congress, or you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who has a connection, let's call in a favor. Let's use our chits. Let's make those connections and do what we can to make sure the message is strong, the message is consistent, the message is persistent, and that the message is clear as can be that what we need is justice for all. Not justice for some, not justice for those who have cash, but justice for all. That is the promise in our Constitution, and that is what we will expect from our leadership in Washington. And if we don't, it's going to be on us for not communicating that to them and holding them accountable. So stand with me, stand with Jim Salmon and John Levy and everybody at LSC and everybody in the ABA, and let's get this done. Are you with me?
Now, I've learned, and unfortunately the hard way, when a judge asks you to do something, you had better do it. So thank you, Your Honor, for that message. And of course, we thank you all. Now, we couldn't let the program conclude without one more musical treat. Our final performer today is currently starring as Carole King, a songwriter who wrote the soundtrack for a generation, with the Broadway production of Beautiful. Now, Ms. King's music is speaking to a new generation. Please welcome to our stage to sing the iconic You've Got a Friend. That would be Miss Abby Mueller. Thank you so much for lending your talents, your spirit, everything to this cause. You are so appreciated. Thank you. And thank all of you, everyone, for joining us today. The ABA now invites you to continue the celebration in the expo. You exit the ballroom and turn to your left, turn left, and we'll see you there. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.